This is about the Energy Resilience Fund, and it's looking to improve community buildings with the aim of reducing energy costs. So what we're going to cover today is, I'm going to just do a little bit of introduction. So I'll ask Sarah and Priya to do a little bit of an introduction. Then I'll give you an overview of the fund and the criteria. I'll talk very briefly about energy audits, and I've got a couple of case studies to show you, and then I'll show you the application process. And Priya from Green Economy is going to tell you a little bit about how they can provide you with some support near the end of the session. So if you go on to, and if you've got any questions at any point, you can unmute and shout out, or you can put stuff in the chat, but there is also a section at the end for questions. Okay. So the Energy Resilience Fund, it provides finance, so that's a loan, it's social investment, you have to repay it, and it's to enable community and social enterprises to retrofit energy generating or saving technology on buildings that they own or manage. And this is the idea of the fund. The initial focus of the fund is to reduce or stabilise energy costs. So retrofit, I'm assuming a lot of people know what retrofit means, but if not, it's about adding more modern technology to existing buildings. And the types of technology that are kind of appropriate for this fund is things like upgrading lighting to be more energy efficient LED lights, installing solar panels or solar thermal panels to generate electricity or heat water, so reducing the amount of energy you need to purchase from the grid. Improving boiler controls. We've had some organisations where the boiler controls are broken, so the boiler works all right, but they find it difficult to control the heating in the building because the controls aren't working, or they don't, yeah, they're just not working. Or insulating lofts and walls. And also entrance lobbies. There's a picture there of a door that goes straight out onto the street. So when people come in and out of the building, a lot of heat is lost from the building. So I forgot to ask Sarah and Priya to do their introductions. Do you want to do that very briefly, Sarah, and just give us a little bit of an overview of the fund? Just
thanks, Sally. So I'm Sarah Dennis. I'm the Energy Resilience Fund Project Manager. Thanks for inviting me along to chat about the fund today, Ali. Yeah, it's good to be here. So we're an England-wide fund. We've got a number of funding partners. So that the fund, Energy Resilience Fund, is funded through Key Fund, Power to Change, Access, and Big Society Capital. We also have a number of delivery partners as well, and they are the people who are supporting our applicants and investees through the application process and investment process and post-investment process. So the delivery partners are Key Fund, Big Issue Invest, Charity Bank, Residents, Cooperative Finance, Architectural Heritage Fund, and of course, last but not least, it's GMCVO. So I'll pass back to Ali or Priya maybe after me, but yeah, I'll be on hand to sort of hopefully answer any questions that come up along the way.
Priya, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep. Hi everyone, I'm Priya from Green Economy. We are part of the Growth Company, which is a social enterprise in Greater Manchester, and we offer funded support to businesses across Greater Manchester to help them decarbonise. But we also support the growth of the green tech sector, which is what I'll run through a little bit later on, about helping you get access to suppliers that can help you decarbonise or get, the quotes that you need for the fund application.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the next slide then. So I thought it'd be useful to give you a couple of quotes from organisations that have already accessed the fund, because I think what they say probably resonates with a lot of people. So we have a quote from KYP, which is Kashmiri Youth Project. They run a former mill in Rochdale, and they provide managed office space, and they aim to improve mental health and provide education and training to meet community need. So they said that the impact of rising energy costs has been profound and multifaceted, from financial strain to operational adjustments. Funding from ERF can provide us with greater stability, especially when facing fluctuating energy costs. It offers a buffer against unforeseen price increases and economic uncertainties, allowing us to plan and enhance energy efficiency and implement sustainable practices for financial stability and environmental responsibility. And the second quote is from Higher Folds Community Centre, who run a community centre in Lee, over in Wigan. They have a nursery and a grocery and other activities for the local people. So they said that their electricity quotes quadrupled in 2023. So we were pleased to receive a grant for an energy audit from the Energy Resilience Fund. The audit is helping us to understand how we could considerably improve the energy efficiency of our community centre and nursery, and the recommended measures would allow us to make monthly savings against our energy costs. The building will be warm for children, the elderly, and other users of our activities and services. So there's a lot of reasons for improving energy use within community buildings. So there's the environmental responsibility side of things in trying to reduce your carbon footprint. There's reducing energy costs, and those funds can be diverted to delivering social impact. There's ability to heat the space more effectively, so improving comfort and viability. So the rooms might be able to be open more often so that you can rent them out and generate an income. It also gives greater stability. Having more control over energy use gives a buffer against rising and fluctuating energy costs, and makes a building easier to run, especially when boilers aren't very easy to control. And sometimes organisations come to us because there's been a trigger, like their boiler is broken or their roof is leaking, so they're trying to have a look at the whole building and how they can make it more efficient. The priority for this fund, though, is to support interventions that stabilise or reduce energy costs. So that is because you need to repay the finance. So you need to be able to have generating some income to be able to repay it. Okay, so this is the fund details. So it's social investment, as I said, so it's a loan between 10,000 and 150,000. So 40% of this, up to 40%, could be a grant element. So, for example, if you wanted to borrow £100,000, it'd be £60,000 in a loan and £40,000 as a grant. The loan term is 12 months to 7 years, so you would need to have it for a minimum of 12 months. That could be adjusted during the term as well, if need be. And the interest rate, it's 6.5 flat rate, and there's a 1% arrangement fee as well. And to understand what interventions would be best for a building, it's usually recommended to have an energy audit. Someone to come around and have a look at the building and see what would or wouldn't work. So the Energy Resilience Fund provides a grant of 2,500 to carry out an audit. So the criteria for the fund is that you have to be an incorporated entity to be able to apply. You need to have clear social aims that fits one of the following descriptions. So not for private profit, asset lock, or private profit distribution restrictions. Have clear policies or restrictions around profit distribution. So that could be a company limited by guarantee, CIC, CIO, can be a cooperative, also registered charities, as long as organisations are trading. So the building that you want to improve, you need to either own it or manage it, and ideally have a lease with a minimum of 12 years remaining on that lease. And this this kind of gives you some security, because we wouldn't want you to be losing the building and then still have a debt to repay. So you need to have that building to be able to generate your income in most circumstances anyway. And you need to have an energy audit on the building, and that needs to be no older than 12 months old. So
Can I just interrupt?
Yeah, sure.
What exactly is an energy audit? Because I've never done one. Or
Okay, that's my next slide. So I'll show you tell you about that in a second.
Yeah.
I'm glad you've asked that question, because I wasn't going to include that slide, so that's good. So the energy audit, it's a report of the building, so it needs to be no older than 12 months old. And if you haven't got one, then you can apply to the fund for a grant to commission a specialist to do it. The Key Fund also require organisations to generate some income through trading, just so that the organisations aren't totally dependent on grants. So this is where I was going to bring Sarah in to just give a little bit of an explanation on why we need to see that trading income.
Yeah, I can talk about that. Obviously, with it being a blended product, it's repayable finance. So we do need to make sure that organisations have aren't totally grant dependent, so that they do have that sort of financial stability to repay. Generally with a Key Fund investment, we're looking at trading at around 50%. But if you're not trading at that level, please don't be put off making an inquiry. We do sort of consider things. For example, if you're an early stage organisation and you're sort of working on your trading, growing your trading, we would be happy to look at forecasts and things like that. Or if you, for example, you might have, these are just some examples where you might sort of have less of a trading ratio. If, for example, you have a lot of donations, you could still be trading at a good level, but donations could make it so that, you know, it wasn't 50% of your overall income. So we look at those on a case by case basis, but we do look, we for example, we probably wouldn't invest in an organisation that was heavily grant dependent without some sort of certainty that there would be sort of growth in the growth of their trading income. So hopefully that answers the question, Ali.
It does for me. Is that okay for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll move on to the next slide, which is about energy audits then. So a basic level energy audit is the EPC, Energy Performance Certificate, which you may have seen, particularly if you're trying to sell a house. And this, an energy audit just focuses on the energy use of a building and how it could be improved. And with an EPC, it provides a rating where A is most energy efficient and G is least energy efficient. And the reports usually provide some details of some of the interventions that could be made. So like double glazing or loft insulation, that kind of thing. So the Energy Resilience Fund requires more detailed report. And it's important that a report tries to look at the whole building and how it is used and how it is managed, so that any interventions can be appropriate. So for example, there's no point putting solar panels on the roof that heat water if you don't have use for a lot of hot water, like you don't have showers if you would do for a football club or a rugby club. So it's important for whoever does the audit, he has a good understanding of how the building is used. So the reports that we need, they need to provide information on the types of intervention. So things like LED lighting, insulation, solar panels. Also how much that intervention might cost, the potential cost savings over the year, and also the CO2 savings. And up to now, we've been connecting organisations with people that can do the audits. But now Key Fund have identified their preferred supplier, Turner & Townsend. So if you do need an energy audit done of your building, and if you apply for the fund, then Sarah can put you in touch with Turner & Townsend and arrange the finances in the background to pay for that. that work.
Well,
Like, can I
Would that-
can I just
Sorry.
I was just
just
going to say,
wondering-
just to be
Sarah first, yeah.
totally clear, Tenham and Townsend are our contracted supplier. We don't say preferred supplier because we
Okay.
are happy for people to support
Yes.
to source their own suppliers, but they're working at a very high standard of audit, and they are our contracted supplier. So we can yes, we can sort of put you forward with our contracted supplier, or we're happy for you to source your own supplier, as long as they sort of fit within our guidelines.
So is that a separate fund or within the whole funding amount that you're applying for?
It's a two-stage process. So the first stage application form, you can apply for the grant.
Right.
And then you have a look at the information in that report and decide whether you want to apply for the loan. And then that's the stage 2 process, and I'll explain that again in a minute as well.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. So I'm just going to go through a couple of case studies. So we have Hirefold, who I mentioned before. You can see the screen okay, can't you? There's nothing in, yeah, okay. So Hirefold's community centre based over in Lee. They received a grant to do an energy audit, and they are in the process of applying for social investment to retrofit the building. So they run activities for people in the Hirefolds community, and they generate income, as I said before, through their children's nursery and food pantry. So when they applied for the funds, their energy costs were 25,000 per year, and they were expecting them to increase by 35%. And it's a relatively small building. It's just a single story with a hall and a few meeting rooms. That's pretty expensive for a building of that size. They secured a grant of 2,500 to carry out the audit of the building. And the recommendations were these are some of the key ones, were to upgrade the LED lighting. And to do that, it would cost £16,000, but the improvements could save them £8,200 on their energy costs, which is a huge saving. So it kind of makes financial sense to borrow money to make those adjustments. The return on their investment, if they borrowed that money, would be in just under 2 years. So it makes financial sense. Installing solar panels, that would cost £60,000, but their cost savings would be £10,000, because they'd be using the energy that's generated by the solar panels, and they wouldn't have to buy so much electricity from the grid. Their rate of return on investment would be 6 years. So it would take them 6 years to benefit from installing the panels. The biggest impact, though, for this organisation is that because they had an energy audit done and they started talking to the person who was doing the audit, they had some support to look at their energy tariff, look at their energy contracts, and they were able to cut their energy tariff in half. So making energy improvements to the building, although it's something that they really want to do as an organisation, it's not really such a priority for them, because they've managed to reduce their energy costs by half. So this is, if you apply to the programme, we would really want you to borrow some money, because that's what the whole scheme is about. But you're not committed to doing that. The first thing to do is to have an energy audit done, to have a really good understanding of how the building can be improved, to look at those figures, and then see what makes financial sense in terms of what changes it's worth doing to that building in borrowing the money. So my next case study is KYP, who I mentioned earlier. So they manage a former mill in Rochdale and run various activities for the community. Their energy costs is obviously a lot bigger building, but it's 42,000 per year. but they saw that it was estimated to increase by 40%. So their audit recommended installing solar panels on their roof, upgrading LED lights, and improving their heating controls. So improving the heating controls, I've had this with a few organisations. They're sometimes complicated systems, or they're out of date. People have got like thermostats hid behind cupboards, so they're just not sensing the temperatures of the rooms properly. So heating is on far more than it needs to be. People are opening windows and energy is going out the windows. So heating controls, I think, is a very important thing. So by borrowing, so it would cost, I'm just trying to think where I am. So it would cost approximately 88,000 to make all these interventions, but the savings over a year would be 19,000. So they would receive, if they borrow that amount of money, they would receive return on the investment in 4 to 5 years. So these figures are just estimates in the audit report, and then the idea is that you would need to go out to suppliers to get more detailed quotes. But it just gives a really good indication of what it's worth looking into further. So I was going to go on to the stages of the process now, but if you've got any questions based on what I've gone through already.
No.
No, it's okay. All right. So, the stage 2 process then. So stage 1, as I mentioned earlier, it's a fairly simple application form. I think there's only about 5 pages to it. We just need some basic information about your organisation and some details about your energy use, how you think it might be changing, what the costs are. So the first thing to do really is just to give us a call so we can have a conversation and to see if it's right for you, because we don't want to you'd be wasting your time filling out an application form. I'll be asking for things about your organisation and your activities and services, because it is a social impact loan, so we need to know that you're having a social impact. I'll ask for information about your building, just like a general description, who owns it, and if you've got a lease, and information about your energy use, if you've got any issues like the boiler breaking, or any ideas or any interventions that you've already made, and maybe why you haven't been able to do anything further. And we also I'll ask for some information about your finances and your trading income. So if it seems appropriate, then I'll send you the stage 1 application form. And this is these GMCVO as delivery partners, we assess the application form, and we're kind of your main point of contact for the stage 1 process. And I'll submit a report to the key funds, and they make decisions, and they make decisions on a rolling basis. So there aren't any deadlines for that at all. Obviously, the sooner you get it in, the sooner then maybe you can initially secure a grant to do an energy audit. But if you already have an energy audit that's less than 12 months old, then you can submit that with your stage 1 application. And if it seems appropriate, you can move on to the next stage. So to check whether it makes financial sense to move on to stage 2 and apply for a loan, we have a savings calculator. This is a template that I can share with you, and I can also help you fill it out. So once you've had your energy audit, I wonder if I can, no. Once you've had your energy audit, we can input some information in here to see if the figures stack up and how much your annual savings or costs would be over the year. So this table assumes that the term of the loan would be 7 years, that the grant loan split would be 40% grant, 60% loan. And then you have to insert the interventions, the different interventions that are in the energy audit report, and input the cost of that intervention and the estimated savings per year. And then the figure right at the end shows whether you'll be saving money while you're repaying the finance or losing money on the savings while you're repaying that finance. So if I just take one for an example, so on the bottom there's the LED lighting. That would cost over £30,000 to install, but there'd be a saving of £10,000 a year. So the total repayment on a loan, that's the capital and the interest, would be 3,756. So the saving per year would be the savings estimated per year of 10,000 minus the 3,000 that you'd be repaying on a loan, so you'd have a saving per year of over 6,000. So it makes a lot of sense to borrow money from the key fund to upgrade that lighting. If we pick the one at the top, so insulating the upper floor ceiling, that would cost £3,500 to do, which isn't a huge amount in the whole scheme of things, but the saving on energy costs would only be £343. But the annual repayment for borrowing 3,500 would be £436 a year. So you'd actually be making a loss that each year while you're repaying that finance of £93. That's quite a long-winded way of explaining it, but does that make sense to people? And have you got some questions?
I had a question, Ali, which is how are the repayments determined? Are they just a straightforward interest rate of the loan, or are they connected to the savings made, actual or predicted?
I'll ask Sarah to answer that question.
It's just a flat rate of 6.5% interest, so it's not connected in any way to the savings.
Is that the interest rate as it is now, or would that fluctuate, you know, with the economic
It's a flat rate. It wouldn't
regardless.
Yeah.
But not if it went down, it wouldn't go down. It would just stay.
No, it's fixed. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
And each month you would pay, correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, you would pay the same amount of interest as you would capital each month throughout the term of your loan.
Yeah, it's a monthly repayment. Yeah. Fixed payment. Yeah.
So that's not connected to the Bank of England interest rate, it's just a guaranteed flat rate.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll move on to stage 2. So the stage 2 application, that's a lot more detailed. We need a lot more information from you. We have an online application form, and we need a business plan, cash flow projections for 3 years, a bank decline letter, and quotes for the interventions. So we can provide you with templates for your business plan and cash flow projections if you need those. But if you have your own way of writing business plan and cash flow, then that's fine, we can accept those. The stage 2 application form, it's an online form, and Sarah would send you a link, and she's going to explain a little bit about the application form now.
Yeah, so it's a fairly straightforward form, but we do ask for quite a lot of information, obviously, with it being repayable finance. I just thought it might be worth just sort of noting that the application, the stage 2 application, is the key funds sort of standard application that everyone who comes to us for investment is, and it's not written specifically for energy resilience. So you might, when you're filling out some of it, it might seem a bit like, what, you know, how do I answer this? Is that relevant to me? All the questions are relevant, but we're not making any sort of assessment on your application based on this application form. this is used as a guide for the delivery partner that you're matched with to write up your panel assessment, and the panel assessment is what will go for a decision at panel. So we're not sort of marking your answers or anything like that. It's literally for a guide. So if there's any, so you don't need to worry about sort of having perfect answers or anything like that. It will be, if there was something that when your delivery partner is going through your application, if there's something that they didn't think looked quite right, they can sort of have a conversation based on that with you, rather than you having to sort of resubmit a form or anything like that. So and obviously if there is any questions that you're unsure about as you go along, myself or Ali would be there to sort of support you with that process. So yeah, it's not something we're sort of marking, let's put it that way.
And the bank decline letter, does that mean you've got to have approached the bank first to borrow the money?
So at the stage that you come to us, you don't need to have approached your bank. You can do that retrospectively before you go for a panel decision. So the reason Key Fund was set up was to sort of support organisations who fall through the gaps in sort of accessing repayable finance and flexible finance. So we do ask for, it's just a self-cert letter to say you've had a conversation with your bank. And we'd ask a couple of details like where your sort of the bank branch and the date you had the conversation, but we're not doing due diligence on that. We trust that you'll have had that conversation. It doesn't need to be a formal conversation. It can be an informal conversation over the phone with your bank. And what we're asking for is that the bank will you can just ask your bank if you would be able to receive the same funding at the same rate that we would, so this under the same terms that we would offer it to you. So 6.5% unsecured loan. So I think the answer in the vast majority of cases will be no. So yeah, I hope that's self-explanatory. It, as I say, it doesn't need to be a sort of lengthy formal process. It can be an informal chat with the bank.
Okay.
Thank you, Sarah. And as Sarah said, it is very much, you don't have all the right answers, don't have to have all the right answers. It's very much a two-way process. So when you submit your application form and all the associated documents, they initially go to Key Funds, and then they come to me and I review them, and then it's a two-way process between you and me to try and pull out the information if there's things missing, or if there's things that I don't understand, because I would have to, or me or a colleague at GMCVO would have to prepare assessment papers that go to the panel, and we have to present your proposal at panel for the final decision. So it's very important that we understand your proposal as much as possible. The last thing on there, the quotes for the interventions. So anything that costs £10,000 or more, we need 3 quotes. Anything that costs less than 10,000, we just need 1 quote. But those aren't needed until the panel date. So you don't need to, if you know that it's worth applying for the fund, you can start the application form with a business plan and cash flow projections, and then we can firm up the quotes. And this is where I bring in Priya. So I'll need to stop sharing and share Priya's slide. So if you just bear with me, it won't be a second. All right, I've stopped sharing. Does that look okay?
Perfect, thank you.
Brilliant.
Yeah, if you could just go on to the company overview and I can start. So hi everybody, I'm Priya from Green Economy. And yes, as I mentioned briefly before, we are headquartered in Greater Manchester. We're part of the Growth Company, which is a social enterprise. We do work nationally, but the work that Green Economy is born out of has been started and worked in Greater Manchester for the last 12 years. So we're part of the Business Growth Hub, and we've been funded by Greater Manchester's Combined Authority for the last 12 years to offer a range of business support to businesses that are just starting up all the way through to scaling up and approaching different markets. But what I'm going to cover today is what Green Economy do, and we are the sustainability arm of the Growth Company. So yeah, we were established 12 years ago, funded by Greater Manchester Combined Authority, so that's all 10 boroughs across Greater Manchester, and shared prosperity money. Currently, previously it was European money. And there's two strands to what we do. We offer support to businesses to decarbonise. So we do have that now. So if you are a Greater Manchester based business, you can get fully funded support to help decarbonise. And then the other side of the business is that we've been offering fully funded support to green tech businesses. So helping people to get into the green tech sector, helping people to develop, helping people to diversify into the sector, because there's a huge skills gap, but also it's an area that businesses need some support in, and helping. The main aim of what we're trying to do is help businesses to become more competitive in the market and access sales opportunities locally. If you can move on to the next slide, I can run through some of the support that we offer. Yes, so in terms of the green tech sector supply chain, what we've been doing over the last 12 years is we have businesses approach us, or we approach businesses, and we carry out a one-to-one diagnostic, and it's quite interactive. We try and get as much data out of the business as we can as to what the business plan is, what business, identifying the key themes within the business that they need some support. Through that, we provide an action plan, and we help that business and support them in any way we can, whether it's access to finance, whether it's training, whether it's upskilling, anything it might be, we help that business. Then the business has an opportunity to join our marketplace. So this is a marketplace of green tech businesses. So it could be renewables, waste, data monitoring, anything that anyone who offers a low carbon product or service can join the marketplace. It's free to use, it's free to approach the businesses on there. So this is one way that you would be able to kind of access suppliers if you wanted to do it yourself. But then my day-to-day role within the business is to connect end users, so anybody that's looking to decarbonize, holding their hand through the whole procurement process of accessing green suppliers. Because the thing that we find, and we have found over the last few years, is that the barriers to people uptaking green tech is the lack of knowledge, the lack of trust in suppliers, and ever-changing technology. So what we try and do at Green Economy is help, my role in particular is help people access the suppliers, get the quotes that they need, and then help review those quotes as well. The Sales Hub is also, oh, sorry, could you just go back for 1 second? No, that's okay. The Sales Hub, which, yeah, as I mentioned, my day-to-day job is finding people, suppliers that they need, that they can get quotes from. We have access to market intelligence. So we've got a Green Intelligence newsletter that comes out, and we can provide some more information on that afterwards. In terms of the other support that we give to the green tech businesses, and we have been for the last few years, is developing green leader skills, green leaders and skills, which is basically looking at helping the businesses get support from experts within sustainability, marketing, business growth and leadership to help those businesses to continue to develop. And then we have peer-to-peer networking, which again, it's a safe space for businesses in the same area to kind of learn from one another, help support each other, and help them diversify into the areas that we need. So that's the support that we get from the green for the green tech businesses, and we've developed a marketplace. So as I mentioned, you can go onto the marketplace and access support or contact the suppliers directly. Yeah, if you can go on to the next slide, please. So yeah, the support that I can help you with is at the stage 2. So when you're looking for the quotes, whether it's 1 or 3, to help your application process, I can speak to you, go through the kind of technology that you're looking to implement, and then we could put a call of an expression of interest as such out to the marketplace, and any of the suppliers that are interested in providing a quote, I can make those introductions to you. So any of the types of technologies that Ali was mentioning before, so whether it's solar PV, EV, heating, or anything else it might be, I can help support you with finding and accessing those suppliers. that's just a whistle-stop tour of what I can help you with. I'm happy to speak to anybody following this, but those are my details. And yeah, so I can support you at stage 2.
Thank you for that, Priya.
No worries.
So that's the end of the presentation. So this is a chance for anyone to, if they've got any other questions, just to fire them over.
So on average, what would be the process time? So from the first step to the final work being done, and the application process, is it done every 6 months? Is the closing dates? Is it an odd rolling thing?
That's a good question. So the stage 1, it's a rolling application, and it very much depends on how quick the organisation can complete the inquiry form and then the quality of that information. So I often have to go back and say, well, no, I do need financial information. I need your accounts and management accounts. And so there's sometimes a bit of to-ing and fro-ing. That could easily turn around in weeks, I would say, wouldn't you, Sarah?
Yeah,
from your side as well?
So once we receive an application form, so I've done a sort of like a bit of analysis on this recently, so it's a bit fresh in my mind, but from when we receive an application form until the point you've had your audit and have received your audit report is between 2.5 to 3 months. As Ali said, once you sort of complete your application form and that's in with us, that can be turned around pretty quickly. Sometimes we get a decision on an audit application within a few days, but obviously there's the work for Ali to do at the point when you submit your application. If you submit that with everything with it, then Ali can get that straight over to us and we can get a quick decision. If there's bits missing, then it can be a longer process. We're finding, so we're sort of we haven't had lots of stage 2s go through to panel. We have a monthly panel. It's a open fund at the moment. We don't have a closing date and we don't have rounds, but we have a monthly decision panel for stage 2 applications. Our best sort of guess, based on the date we have at the moment, is that from an audit, from sort of submitting your application for an audit up until when you submit to panel for your stage 2, it is around 4 to 6 months, based on kind of current timelines.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
And apart from the obvious, like the heating and lights, for instance, is there any like add-ons to that? Like, say, for instance, our buildings, it's almost like single brick. It's very cold. We have to replace our windows. So is the windows included? Is the wraparounds included? Is the living roofs and all that?
The auditors will come and do a full assessment of your entire building. So they will give you recommendations based on everything. So they will give you so it will be sort of insulation, if that's relevant. Unless you're a new build, and then you've probably got insulation already. So insulation, your sort of roof insulation, wall insulation, lighting. I think most stage 2 applications that have come through have included solar panels. So that tends to be one, because it's a good return on investment, good like quick payback periods. They're the main intervention.
Just as a matter of interest, we couldn't have solar panels on ours because of where we're situated and the footballs, they'd constantly be hitting the roof. So we was wondering, like, on the insulation level, whether you could have like a living roof instead, a living, Priya, there's buildings in Manchester, isn't there, that have
we have those kinds of suppliers, we do. But again, I think the audit would pull up everything, so they will talk through, if it was something that you wanted to consider because you couldn't have solar, the installers or auditors will come around and they will look at everything. They'll look at your half-hour data. They'll be looking at what your usage is and look at the actual fabric of the building and whatever else it is that they need to consider, and then they will do a full report. And after that, all you know, when they come up with the recommendations, they will consider
Yeah.
if you can't have solar, okay, there might be other things that you can use. And that's the other thing that we try and promote in terms of other technology. You know, there are other things that you can do that could be like rainwater harvesting. So we work with a few football clubs that use that, and obviously you can probably get a lot from that in Manchester. So yeah, there's lots of other things, but the audits really do cover everything, and the recommendations they make will be talking about what the return on investment will be.
Right.
So that
It's
doesn't
really
really-
important we get this audit done, isn't
yeah,
it?
definitely.
Really.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be worth pointing out that there are some sort of retrofit interventions that aren't
Yeah.
really investable through this fund. For example, ground source heat pumps can be really good for some organisations, but because the payback period is between 20 and 30 years, it means that on a sort of 7-year term loan, that's not something that we'd see an investment on within that period. So that's all stuff that we'll review when you get your audit report.
Yeah, because there's a wish list and there's a realistic
What
list.
works? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So
Yeah.
it sounds, Kim, as if we should get in touch. We should have a one-to-one chat.
Absolutely.
Should we do that? I'll get in touch. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got 3 minutes left. Does anyone else want to tell us about their project and whether they think the fund's appropriate for them? No? I can't see anyone. Okay.
Maybe
Well,
I was gonna say if it might be interesting for people to put in the chat what stage they're at. Like, are they? Are you interested in this? And if so, what? Or if not, what were you hoping to find? Gonna have to make a poll though.
We just know we've got plan A, we've got the money to have our kitchen refitted and the showers and changing rooms to be in line with the FA regulations, but we just don't have anything in place for the rest of the building, and it really is it's you turn the heatings off and it goes cold very quickly. It's so inefficient. And we've got those tube lightings, which are getting harder and harder to source.
They've
replace
stopped
them.
manufacturing them, so that's
Yeah,
why LED
so
lighting is probably the quickest thing to get
practically
done.
without any lighting, we can't get hold of them.
Yeah, they've stopped manufacturing them.
we-
That's why there's a
we-
big push on LED lighting for that
Yeah,
reason as
so
well.
we're desperate to get to the next, sooner rather than later. This is right. My question was, how long does it take? If we get another bulb that goes, we can't source it.
So for example, if you manage to get your application form and supporting documents in sort of tomorrow, let's just say, for example, then probably by the end of next week we could have a decision on the audit funding. That's sort of how quick stage 1 can be. That does obviously depend on you being able to get stuff to Ali and Ali's capacity.
Pulling everything together, yeah.
Yeah, so it's usually so yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say that's
Focus on getting the audit done.
okay.
Brilliant.
Well, I hope that's been useful. I'll wrap it up now if that's okay. If you do have any questions, after the session, then please do contact me, email me. We'll send around the slides, and yeah, if that prompts any more questions, then come back in touch with us.
Okay.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
great. Thanks
Cheers.
everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Alan.
Bye-bye. Bye.